It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, folks, today we're going to jump in that gigantic, sharp, interactive board. I want to share some thoughts on the presentation that the CEO of Konica Minolta presented in the desert to dealers. And I'm looking at this presentation, I'm thinking to myself, what in the hell? Really? I mean, I knew the presentation was delivered in the desert. So I started thinking, how hot was it that day? And is this presentation a case of sunstroke? I'm going to share the slides, some of the slides, and then I'm going to share my thoughts in red on these slides, because I really believe this presentation is probably a case of sunstroke. I start out with the title of it. Listen to this. Rethink Growth, Efficiency, Fueling Profit. Are you kidding me with this? So Konica Minolta, folks, I've shared their quarterly reports, right? Like for the last, 4 or 5 years, that company's a train wreck right in front of us. I mean, they can't even make profit. And they're going to talk to dealers about profitability. I just thought it was crazy and nutty. And I'm going to share some thoughts. But before I do that, there is some late breaking news I got to address real quick. Another leader out the door at Visual Edge IT to pursue other interests. This email went out. Effective immediately, David Ramos has departed the position of Chief Strategy Officer at Visual Edge IT to pursue other interests. And folks, I'm reading that and I'm thinking to myself, really? I mean, wasn't it like, 3 weeks ago that their CRO, Sean Seward, left to pursue other interests? I'm thinking to myself, are they really leaving now? I mean, we heard Austin Vancheri, their CEO, if he really is the CEO still, talking about how fantastic Visual Edge IT is doing. Remember when he sat there with a guy with a hat and a beard, talking about how now that they know what they're doing, everything's fantastic? So, so now that they know what they're doing and everything's fantastic, all the senior leaders are leaving to pursue other interests. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that Visual Edge is now facing reality. And that reality is crushing the fantasies that they've been living off of for the last how many years? I believe, as I shared with you before, that Visual Edge is they're on the edge of the cliff. And I believe that they will fall off that cliff. And as I see leaders leaving the company to pursue other interests, well, you don't necessarily believe all the emails that corporations send out, right? I mean, theoretically, did he leave to pursue other interests, or was he thrown out the door to pursue other interests? Did Sean leave to pursue other interests, or was he thrown out the door to pursue other interests? And I got my magic pen in my hand because I want to circle this, where Austin Vancheri, the Chief Executive Officer, says in quotes, first of all, I think he's the one that should have sent out the email, not be quoted in an email that's sent out by Human Resources. But folks, we are grateful for the positive contributions David made to VEIT and wish him well in the future, says Austin Vancheri, Chief Executive Officer. I got to question whether Austin Vancheri is even the Chief Executive Officer. Is that an outright lie on that email? I mean, I've questioned this now over and over, and you would think that, it'd be easy for Austin to answer that question. Just go in the comments of today's episode and say, yes, I am still the CEO of the company. And I don't mean just in title, like, are you really the CEO? Can you really make decisions navigating that company? Because I don't believe you can, okay? I don't believe you can. Hopefully, David will come on the end of the day with Ray, or Sean could come on the end of the day with Ray, and we kind of talk about Visual Edge IT in a way that the industry's actors can realize what's going on in that company. Because, ladies and gentlemen, just because a lot of folks don't want to talk about the things that are upsetting, sometimes there is a tipping point. Sometimes there is a tipping point. And I believe that the tipping point for Visual Edge is here today. So stay tuned for more on this, but now let's get into this Konica Minolta's presentation. I'm going to share the slides that the President and CEO of Konica Minolta Business USA presented, but I did create this slide first. I want to talk about this. Is this a case of inept management? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I see we're one of the leaders Well, when I think about Konica Minolta, I do think about Visual Edge IT because, as far as I'm concerned, they're both non-performing organizations, financially non-performing. But Konica Minolta sends this out on social media, bragging about how Konica Minolta is on the Forbes list, best large employers. Best large employers. Our employees are so excited to work here. And folks, they're announcing this at the same time they're sending out an email for a reduction in force. Join this Teams call. What in the hell? It just seemed kind of inept to me to do this. To tell the whole world how great you are to work for at the same time you're having a riff. A riff by email. Just amazing to me that companies do this crap. But ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the profitability of Konica Minolta, because, you know, if the CEO of Konica Minolta Business US is going to talk to dealers about profitability, let's look at the profitability of Konica Minolta. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2020, they had $107.7 million in operating profit loss. In 2021, $147.3 million in operating profit loss. In 2022, $628 million in operating profit loss. Oh, in 2023, they squeaked out a 2.2% operating profit, but I'm sure that was just a mistake, because here we are in FY 2024, which will end for Konica in March of 2025. 9 months into the year, they're $122.2 million loss in operating profit. And they're projecting that their operating profit loss will be $92.5 million for the year. This is a company that can help dealers and the industry be more profitable. Holy crap, you can't even make this up. So here's the agenda for the meeting. So you'll see the stuff in red is the stuff I'm adding. So let's kind of go through this really quick. Industry challenges, what we see in the industry. I say this, do you recognize yourself as a non-financially performing OEM? I mean, seriously. Do you recognize yourself as a non-financially performing OEM, Konica Minolta? I mean, can you go to the meeting and say, hey, I'm Konica Minolta, I'm a non-financially performing OEM, and then people in the audience will say, hello, Konica Minolta. Can you go to that meeting, Konica Minolta? Are you ready to face those realities? Seriously. What we see with dealers is on the agenda. Here's what I say in red. I'm thinking looking in the mirror is more important for Konica Minolta. I mean, seriously. Look in the mirror, Konica Minolta, and what you'll see is a non-financially performing OEM, right? Seriously. Profit concepts. Profit concepts. This is unbelievable. Here's what I'm thinking. Maybe proof of concepts is a better strategy over dreaming of profitable concepts. Because that's what a lot of the folks in the industry do, and I think Konica Minolta is one of those folks. They're dreaming about profitable concepts. The hell with a proof of concept. The hell with being held accountable along the way. Let's just keep dreaming about a profitable concept. Holy smokes. Ladies and gentlemen, industry challenges, what we see in the industry, maintaining profits and margins, revenue growth, attracting and maximizing skilled labor. Attracting and maximizing skilled labor, I put in red. Were all the Konica Minolta employee terminations unskilled people or bad hires? One or the other. What happened? So if you're out there, are you still attracting and maximizing skilled labor? As you have these rifts? As you liquidate assets in Europe? I mean, what's going on there? Holy, so you see when I saw this, I was like, this is crazy stuff. Let's look at this slide. This is something that I pulled out of their financials. And I talked about this when I went through their third quarter numbers for their first 9 months. Transferring assets is not growth, it's actually recognizing failures, right? I mean, seriously. They list all this stuff that they eliminated in Europe and some of the stuff here in the United States, like that crazy ERP Forza. What a disaster. You know, it's kind of funny that Forza was kind of born in that desert stage, and now you got the Konica CEO of USA on that desert stage talking about how dealers could be more profitable. That conversation seems to be as senseless as the conversation about Forza those years ago. God, if the industry only had some damn accountability. I put in red on this slide, when does Dex Imaging, Dextech, pick up all covered in Konica's U.S. remaining direct offices? Did the CEO talk about any of that? Did he talk about how they're divesting assets in Europe? Did he talk about how they divested that Forza ERP? Did he share any kind of responsibility and why that ERP failed so miserably to the audience there in the desert? I don't think he did he? Ladies and gentlemen, here's another slide. This is great. Industry challenges, market disruptors, in his article by IDC and some of their points. You got the Canada report with some of their points. Canada report, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, it's content with zero context. Let's just be honest for what this stuff is. You know, if you want the Canada award, then you better behave yourself or you're not going to get it. If you want the Canada award, you better invite the Canada people to your meetings. If you want the Canada award, you know, and you're willing to help support getting that award, we'll look the other way around all the industry's painful discussions. Pretty sad, but at the end of the day, am I making that up? Leasing partners. You know, the leasing partners had some interesting things to say. 20% less clicks year over year, pre-pandemic levels. 20% less clicks. That's big news, right? Lower volumes, drive down device speeds. I mean, lower volumes drive down device speeds. This is such a stupid thing to say. I mean, what? You could buy a really small desktop A4 that's faster than the old A3s. The device speeds aren't getting slowed down. The cost of the machines are getting cheaper. And going to the customers is getting cheaper. It's just this crazy nonsense that our industry talks about. Here's Key Point Intelligence. And you know, I believe Key Point Intelligence is just a bunch of lunatics out there. That's just, hey, look, at the end of the day, I got to say what I believe. And when I say that they're lunatics, I say they're lunatics in the way they present stuff into the marketplace. I believe that their award system is flawed, completely flawed. And this is crazy. So here's what Key Point says on some of their own analysis, okay? They say in 2019, the average growth for a dealer was 11.8%. In 2019, the average margin was 21.4%. And here we are in 2024, according to Key Point Intelligence and their survey, the average growth is 6.7% growth and 12.1% margin. And they say resellers return to growth, but the margin has slowed. Are you kidding with me? Where are they return to growth? This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen Key Point put out. It's fallen off a cliff is a more appropriate phrase. In 2019, we had 11.8% growth with a 21.4% margin. Here we are in 2024 with a 12% margin. It's basically half, and growth is basically half. Oh, we returned to growth. It's crazy. And people read this and got a CEO of one of the OEMs talking about this stuff. It's just insane. It's insane. I'm sure those people in the audience were allowed to ask questions, right? Hold their hands up and say, what in the hell are you talking about? Oh, they probably weren't, were they? I don't know, because I'm not allowed to go to that meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, you see my bull over there taking a poop. I call it, well, bullshit math. Let me just read some of this stuff. Business impact of changing landscape. If your dealership is $10 million, profit would be $1,125,000. Clicks are declining by 5%. Service is 45%. Losing $275K, a 50% margin for service, is $137,500 in profit. Decline in 25% in blended margin. What a bunch of bullshit math. Okay? And it gets better. Let me read what he says here. You have to grow your hardware net new placements a minimum of 12% to maintain your same level of profit. What in the world are we talking about here? Well, it's an OEM. You got to grow your net new placement by 12%, which means you're going to buy hardware from us, because we don't really care what we say about service and all that other stuff. We're really a hardware-focused company. We are completely 100% product-centric. Please increase your hardware sales with us by 12%. Ladies and gentlemen, I asked this in red. Are end-user service costs higher than the 2019 level? And I'm betting hell no, they're not. So at the end of the day, it's not about increasing your hardware placements. It's about figuring a way to decrease your costs to deliver the services on hardware placements. It's about paying attention to the realities that A4 is going in the marketplace more than A3 and the benefits of A4 from a service perspective. It's about, do you really need to be doing business with 19 different OEMs? You got to figure out how to lower your costs, because the market can't raise its price to the end user. And at the end of the day, just putting out 12% more in hardware is not going to help you. It's just going to give you more hardware losing money. It's totally ridiculous. It talks about volume shift, A3 to A4. But yet Konica's doing the opposite, right? I mean, I'm sure that 12% placements they want you to increase with them would be all A4 products. Ladies and gentlemen, it is just so crazy to me. You know, I saw the previous CEO of Konica Minolta Business USA on a webinar one time talking about how they knew it was going to be an A4 world. They knew it, it was coming. But they've done nothing to prepare themselves for it, and they still really haven't. Where's Konica Minolta talking about A4? Where's their whole new A4 lineup? What's their strategy around A4 where the market's going? Their strategy is telling dealers they got to buy 12%. I mean, this is just nutty stuff. And again, I'm sure the audience had a chance to say some of this stuff. I mean, I'm sure they did, right? They're thinking the same way I am for the most part. Ladies and gentlemen, net new customer acquisition. I thought this slide was interesting, and the only thing I'm going to say on this slide is what's new from 1999, other than talking about a CRM, because back in 1999, the CRM was a shoebox called the Depot file. I mean, folks, at the end of the day, this is just insanity. Just total insanity, all this. The industry's changing in front of everybody's eyes, and we just can't help but dragging the past to the future. The industry just can't help it. Transforming the back office on their folks. I'm looking at this slide and I'm thinking, okay, transforming the back office. They talk about KPAX, BizHub, Check Care, ECI, Automate, distribution management. What about Forza? Where's that logo? Oh, that's right. They divested themselves of that, and that was going to be the ERP that was going to change everything. You know, look, at the end of the day, a lot of crap happens and things just fall off a cliff. But Konica should have faced that fact. It should share that story with the dealers. That would have been a better presentation, why Forza failed so miserably as he stood on that desert stage. Especially because probably right after he gave his presentation, someone gave another presentation about ERP systems that are going to change the industry. Again, you can't even make this crap up. Ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to do a quick little exercise to wrap up today's episode, but I wanted to look at operating profit for just the print piece of Konica Minolta. Because, you know, Konica Minolta will say, well, you know what Ray's talking about is the whole conglomerate, and we're doing really good in the print sector. So I took the digital workplace operating profit. We know the digital workplace is the MFPs that are in offices and their DWDX, you know, their IT stuff. And I want to compare that to Ricoh's operating profit. And I want to compare that to Kyocera's operating profit. We know that Kyocera, they don't do any of this IT nonsense, running around buying up crap and delivering it poorly into the marketplace, crushing their operating profit. They sell print equipment. And whatever they're doing outside of print equipment apparently is pretty profitable for them. Let's look at some operating profit comparison starting in the year for the FM 2020, for the physical year ending 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, digital workplace minus 2.7 billion yen in operating profit. Our friends over at Ricoh in 2020, they had a 6.5% operating profit. And then, like our friends at Ricoh normally do, well, they changed things. And it just fell off a cliff ever since then. In 2021, Konica Minolta's operating profit for digital workplace, well, was minus 6.2 billion yen. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, let's just talk about Kyocera and their operating profit. For 2020, it was 9.1% operating profit. For 2022, it was 9.1% operating profit. For 2023, it was 7.8% operating profit. For 2024, it was 9.7% operating profit. The current year they're in right now, 9 months in, they're at 9.1%. So you know what? Ricoh and Konica Minolta talk about all this diversification, all this crap they're doing, but at the end of the day, they just cannot make money doing it. And that's the story the industry needs to be hearing from these leaders. Make them justify why you should do what they can't do. Justify it. Tell us what's going on with your IT services in your all-covered Konica Minolta. Tell us why that ERP thing failed, that business you bought and stuck up underneath all-covered. If the industry cannot face realities, the industry will get slapped in the face by those realities. Just some things to think about, my friends, because everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all it'll be invented. Don't get stuck there, and I'll see you all tomorrow.